Dear girls, hello everyone. I welcome you to a new project that I have called Halloween Party in honor of the American holiday Halloween, which is gaining popularity in our country as well. At the very least, we really love decorating our homes in a Halloween theme. Painting pumpkins, creating some decorations, and feeling that special atmosphere it brings us. Of course, many places, restaurants, cafes, also support this, and we too are gradually integrating into this holiday in our own way. I decided quite spontaneously to create a themed pumpkin specifically for Halloween, and I invite you to crochet it with me. This masterclass is suitable for any crochet level, and for beginners it will be especially useful because it contains a lot of information about different stitches, techniques, and increases. A lot of aspects are gathered here. At the same time, the project is not complicated and can be crocheted quite quickly. For an experienced crafter, this is 2 days of work. Of course, for learning, it might take a bit longer. But you still have time to finish it before Halloween. If you don't want to crochet a Halloween pumpkin, you can make any kind of pumpkin using my tutorial in any size and from any cord. When I show the materials, I'll tell you a bit more about it. For example, I crocheted this 10 centimeter diameter pumpkin in just an hour, so it's extremely fast. I'm also working on these little pumpkins. As for this project, it took me 2 days, considering I was still coming up with the design. I'll show you a bit. We will crochet the body together. And this little stem, which is called the pumpkin stalk, we will shape the face out of felt. This will be something new for us. I'll show you how to work with this material. Everything there is as simple as possible, and this material is actually quite functional, really. And we will crochet this absolutely charming and wonderfully quirky little hat together, which of course you can most certainly and quite easily later use for your many other creative projects, not just for a delightful pumpkin, but also for adorable gnomes and so on, for a variety of festive decorations. I'll tell you about the cords you can use for crocheting. Here I'm using a 5mm cord, but after making one and then another, I realized that it's easier to work with the shape using a 3mm cord. So you can choose a 3mm cord for this kind of pumpkin, crochet it the same way, and it will look great. I'll be working with the 5mm cord to stick to the original. Well, I think everything else will be clear by analogy. There's a visualization, and you'll just crochet by analogy if you need to. A bit about the sizes. The diameter of this pumpkin is about 18 centimeters, and the height is around 12 to 14 centimeters. That's just visually. The hat, if you straighten it out, is about 40 centimeters. If you lay it down like this, you can also shape them differently. That is, they're soft, flexible, you can bend them, they're pliable, like this. The video tutorial will be filmed in great detail. I usually explain everything. Listen, what I say is important and read the key points that I write down. Let's move on to the materials and tools we'll need for the work. As for the materials we'll need to make the pumpkin, the base of the large pumpkin I make from 5mm polyester cord. It doesn't have a core and has a flattened structure. I call it flat cord. For a pumpkin of this particular size, we will definitely need exactly 1 full skein of this flat cord. And in addition to that, we will also have a lovely little decorative embellishment on the hat itself. For the hat, we'll need 1.5 skeins of polyester cord, 3 to 3.5mm thick. Here I have 3.5mm, and I think there are 110 meters in the skein. I can't see. 125 meters, give or take 10 meters. So you definitely need 2 skeins of 100 meters each because 1.5 go into this. You can use polyester cord that is 3 to 3.5 centimeters thick. Choose any you like so you can follow along with my calculation. If you happen to use a significantly thinner one, you might very well have to carefully adjust it yourself, right? That's why I recommend sticking to this cord thickness to make things easier for you. But for instance, if you are truly interested in crocheting a delightful pumpkin, for example, with this particular kind of wonderfully textured finish, yes, then a robust cord like this one, measuring approximately 3 to 3.5 millimeters in thickness, will most certainly also work exceptionally well for your creative endeavors. In that specific case, it is certainly true that these particular rows will not be as richly textured or intricately detailed. However, on the other hand, it becomes considerably easier and more straightforward to precisely shape and form something from this adaptable and pliable kind of fabric material. So that's something to keep in mind here. You can also use some kind of shiny polypropylene cord. This is 2.5 millimeters hobby trend. And we also have a 2 millimeter cord, polyester, which you can also use to crochet a pumpkin, but the texture of the crochet will be less pronounced. But why not? You can crochet the stem from it. You can experiment. That's what I'm getting at. Here I have this stem, the stalk. It's actually crocheted from polypropylene. For this particular stalk, we'll definitely need some leftovers of a 3 millimeter polyester cord in a distinctly different color, perhaps something like a rich brown or a vibrant green to create a nice contrast. But actually, you can also use gray. Why not? We are making a fantastical imaginative object, so we can truly do whatever we like and desire. Next, we will be working with soft pliable felt, which is a wonderful material. I typically buy my felt in large sheets just like these. This particular felt is Korean felt, and it comes in 1 and 2 millimeter thicknesses, and it is quite stiff. It's preferable, highly preferable, to use stiff felt. I haven't decided yet what color the face will be, gray or black, because, well, I'm interested in matching the color exactly, but I haven't seen a face more striking than a black one yet. So we'll see. I'll decide as I go along, and we'll need stuffing for your little pumpkins. Of course, this isn't enough for a big pumpkin. This is just for demonstration purposes. This is synthetic padding. It could be hollow fiber, anything really. You can also buy it. Usually, wherever they sell felt, they also sell stuffing. I'm providing a link. Here you go. These are the main materials for your work. So here you can experiment, especially if you're an experienced knitter. This won't be a problem for you at all. Let's move on to the tools. The tool you will need. Let's start with the hooks. For working with 3 millimeter cord or 3.5 millimeter cord, I use a 3.5 millimeter hook. For the 5 millimeter cord, I use a 4.5 millimeter hook. These crochet hooks may actually vary quite a bit for you. You can easily change their size. 0.5 millimeter, well yes, precisely 0.5 millimeter. So if you feel even slightly uncomfortable crocheting with this particular one, that's absolutely and completely normal. Don't be afraid to experiment with different sizes and types. Next, we will definitely need stitch markers and also needles for sewing knitted pieces together. These can be made of metal or these kinds of plastic ones, which are quite common. We'll also need two distinct types of scissors. The large ones are primarily for cutting fabric, while the small ones are specifically for trimming small parts, loose threads, and so on with precision. You definitely need the small ones because they'll be especially useful when decorating our little face. They'll really come in handy. Polyester cord unravels, so you need to seal it with a lighter. And thread the shade of your cords and felt, especially the felt. With black, it's simple. Sewing black felt is the easiest, but if you have colored felt and colored thread, it's very important that they match in tone. Otherwise, you'll have to sew very, 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 very carefully. I'll explain this. I even do this with black, but with black it's just easier. And for the orange cord, I also picked a similar shade, but here it's not as crucial since all the stitches will be invisible. These are the main tools for the work. And now we'll start working on our little pumpkin. Let's start crocheting our pumpkin. Using a 5 millimeter polyester cord. Again, I want to emphasize that you can change the cord. For an experienced craftsperson, this won't be a problem. If you're a beginner, it's better to follow along with me completely. And only after you gain some experience should you start making changes. So I'm using a 4.5mm crochet hook. And I'll show everything in detail step by step, so it's easy to understand, even for complete beginners. So we begin by making the slip knot, which is formed as follows. You place the short end of your working yarn over the long end, thus creating a loop like this, holding them in place. Next, you need to place the long working yarn over your index finger, and with these two fingers, you hold the slip knot and insert the hook from below. Like this, by dipping under the yarn, you catch the working yarn, pull it through and tighten it. This is your slip knot. To crochet a pumpkin with a diameter of 18 centimeters, I cast on 20 stitches plus 1 turning chain. We will do the same together. And when we crochet a piece about 2 to 3 centimeters long, we will take measurements together. And I will show you how to calculate it. You need the right number of stitches for your own crochet tension because you might want to change something as well, so you'll know how to do it. So we continue crocheting. We chain 20 plus 1 extra chain. 1, 2. We are now going to meticulously count each individual segment of this particular chain. Let's begin with the initial segments. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Continuing our count, we have 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, and finally 21. This is precisely the kind of interconnected chain structure that we currently possess and are examining. Now, with careful attention to detail, we shall proceed to accurately count the total number of these distinct segments that comprise this entire chain. Of our chain segments. So this first one is counted, that's our knot. Let's count. First 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. The loop on the hook, remember, is never counted. Next, we move on to the first row of crocheting. So we will insert the hook under the top loops. The chain is facing us. And here are the top loops. We insert the hook under each of them. We skip the first one, the one from which the loop on the hook comes out. And we insert the hook under the second one, under the top loop. Grab the working yarn, pull up a fairly long loop. Don't tighten your stitches too much. The fabric should be moderately dense, or even better, a bit softer, so it will be easier for you to shape your pumpkin. So, crochet loosely enough, but without leaving any holes. Let me explain now. Next, we insert the hook and yarn over again to catch the working yarn. And with this working yarn, we crochet through the 2 loops on the hook. So this loop that you finish the crochet fragment with should always be short. Just like this one, as you can see now, it's the same size as our hook. But the loops that you pull through make them longer so your crochet doesn't get too tight. Insert the hook under the next chain or bar, right? Yarn over with the working yarn. Pull up a nice long loop, yarn over the hook again, and then use the third loop to carefully pull through the 2 existing loops on the crochet hook. Find the next stitch, insert the hook under it, yarn over, pull up a loop, and with the third loop, pull through the 2 loops on the hook. Well, it's all very simple. These are single crochet stitches. I'm showing it in pink for those who are just learning. Under the next stitch, pull up the working yarn and pull through the 2 loops on the hook. Now you can see a row of single crochet stitches starting to form. And we continue like this until the end. We will crochet all the following bars on our own in the same way. Pay attention, especially if you are a beginner. Don't miss any of these bars. This is a very important point. Because especially at the beginning, when you're learning, it's possible to make this mistake. Once again, insert the hook under the next bar, yarn over, pull up a loop, and crochet the 2 loops on the hook together. We continue to the end of the row. Let's finish this part together. We'll count the number of stitches and continue. We've almost reached the end of the row. We have 2 unworked chains left. We insert the hook under the second to last under the top bar. Yarn over and crochet the 2 loops on the hook together. And here's the last one. Here it is, this bar. This is a knot, we don't crochet it. We'll yarn over. Pull through a nice loop and crochet the 2 loops on the hook together. The first row of our base, our little pumpkin, has been knitted. How do we count the number of your stitches? It should equal the 20 base stitches that we cast on. We count along these top chains here. This chain here is a bit slanted. That's perfectly normal because we had a turning chain. This spot is always like that. You can straighten it out and I'll show you how. So we count along the top chains. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. The loop on the hook doesn't count. We make a turning chain and turn to start the second row. Pay attention to how we will crochet the second row. We have the top loops. So if we look at it, when we crochet, the work faces us like this. We can't see the loops, we can only see these bars. But we need to insert the hook behind the back bars, these ones here. The back of our ones. Here they are, let me show you. So we turn the hook and find the first one, here it is. This acts as our turning chain. Insert under the first one, grab the working yarn, pull through a nice loop again, and crochet together the 2 loops on the hook. Then again we insert under the back loop. Grab the working yarn and crochet the 2 loops on the hook together. Again under the back loop, grab the working yarn and crochet the 2 loops on the hook together. Once more, insert, grab, pull through, crochet together, insert, grab, pull through, and crochet together. This is how we make single crochet stitches. Continue working carefully in the back loops all the way to the end of this entire row, moving along together to the very end. We've reached the end of the row and we have 2 unworked chains left. Crochet into the first one. And the last one, it's slanted. Here we can even out the knitting a little so that it's all the same size. We insert the hook under the back loop, grab the working yarn and pull it through, making it a bit longer than these ones. This way everything is on the same level and we've made the join. Here's what we have. Check yourself by counting the top chains to make sure you have the same number of stitches as you started with, the same number of chain stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. The loop on the hook does not count. We make a turning chain, turn around. This is the kind of ribbing we're already getting. And again, we crochet into the back loops of each chain, just like before. So the base of our pumpkin will be crocheted in this way. By turning each row, we find the top loops and the back loops and continue in the same way. Insert the hook under the first one, pull up the working yarn and crochet it. Under the second one, you will carefully pull up the yarn and then crochet it. Under the third one, you will carefully pull up the yarn and then crochet it. As you continue this process, your cord will naturally start to twist and turn. To effectively untwist it, you should carefully leave the hook securely in your current work and then gently hang it up. Proceed to twist your yarn as tightly and consistently as possible, ensuring the tension is maintained all the way up to this specific point, as you can clearly observe. Following this crucial step, you can then simply hang it, allowing the yarn to naturally untwist itself over time. And it will untwist itself. I'm demonstrating it like this. While there's not much crocheted, you can do this on camera. Like this. And continue your work. We'll meet again at the end of the row. We'll move on to the next step, take measurements, and I'll show you how to do the calculations. If you need different and distinct sizes, if you want to crochet a significantly bigger or a noticeably smaller pumpkin, or if you want to have precisely the same measurement in centimeters as I currently do, then this information will be incredibly helpful for your project. Yes. So let's move together to the 4th row at the end of this one. I'll show you how to count everything, how to count the rows, and we'll continue. Again, we're at the end of the row and we have 2 loose braids. We insert the hook under the last and the second to last, yarn over, pull through, make the stitch, and the last one. It might be a bit tight like this, but it's still quite easy to recognize. Here is its back loop. Pull the working yarn through and make a stitch with the 2 loops on the hook. This is the texture of the pumpkin that we get. Check yourself by counting the stitches. Next, how do you count the rows? Rows are counted as follows. We have the first row, the second looks like this, with this top row of loops. The third will look as if it's behind it. The fourth will look like this, and they will alternate. Well, it's like a fabric, you'll see it. Next, let's count. Or rather, let's measure first. How many centimeters do I have? I have 20 centimeters for 20 stitches. And now I'll show you how to calculate the number of stitches you need to cast on, specifically for your knitting tension. Here. I'll set this aside for now. So I cast on 20 main stitches. The turning chain does not count. After blocking, this equals 20 centimeters. X stitches equals the value we want to get. For example, I don't need 20 centimeters, I need 60 centimeters. Well, in this case, it's obvious that I need to cast on 60 stitches, but that's not the point. Well, approximately. How exactly do we calculate it if you happen to have different numerical values here, and these particular numbers aren't immediately obvious to you? According to the established rules of proportion, you must carefully cross-multiply these specific values, meaning that 20 multiplied by x ultimately equals 20 multiplied by 60. And x equals 120 divided by 20. Yes, and that's 60. So I need to make 60 chain stitches. Well, that's obvious. But if you have different values here, you can use this formula to make your own calculation. This value can be anything for you. So you can work with whatever value you have, and you can redo it if needed. Add stitches, make a big pumpkin. However, if your specific intention is to meticulously knit a hat based on my precise and careful calculations, it is indeed highly preferable for the chosen fabric to be approximately 20 centimeters in width, ensuring an optimal and well-proportioned outcome for your project. It can be 22, so something like this here. I continue knitting further. If you want to change something, you can simply unravel it and cast on again according to your own stitch count. This will not affect your further work in any way, so you won't get confused. This applies to the pumpkin, not the hat. Let's move on. So we are moving on to the 4th row. Turn your work. On this side, you can clearly see what the finished product looks like, presenting a neat and consistent appearance. To proceed, carefully locate the back loops of the stitches from the previous row. Then, meticulously crochet the 4th complete row of single crochets, working exclusively into the back loop of each individual stitch to create a distinct texture and maintain the pattern. We will continue to crochet row by row like this. For the orange pumpkin, I crocheted 46 rows. Here, I will do about the same number of rows, maybe more, we'll see. And when we finish crocheting the piece, I won't show the whole process on camera. We'll meet again and I'll show you how to sew it together, stuff it, and so on. Notice how it looks when you have an even number of rows, two in these segments, right? It's very convenient to count this way. You can count them in twos like this. All right, let's continue for about 46 rows. We'll meet again and continue. I am currently in the process of finishing up knitting this fabric, carefully completing the final stitches. I will now be showing it here on camera for everyone to see, presenting it clearly. And with that, let's now take a closer look at what we have here. Let's see what we've truly got here. Leave the loop a little bit bigger so your precious knitting doesn't unravel, and then let's carefully look at our finished fabric and its overall dimensions. Now let's count the rows. I knitted 46 rows. Let's count by twos. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. Multiply by 2 and you'll get 46. As for the dimensions, the width of the canvas is 21 centimeters and the length is about 47 centimeters. I have this much material left and will still need a little of it for sewing the pieces together and for edging your hat. So this fragment will be enough for you. Set it aside for yourself. Now, our fabric is flexible and can be deformed. For example, you can stretch it. You can pull it tighter. In other words, you can do all of this. How do we sew our little pumpkin together? So we need to fold it in half like this. Our fabric. Next, our loop that we were working with. What do we do? On this side, we have these little bars, single ones. Pay attention, we need the single bars. We insert the hook not under 2 but under 1. The edge single bars. We insert the hook under the first one, or better yet, under the corner one, like this one. And we grab our working loop, pull it through here, tighten it so that the loop is short. Next, we insert the hook under the next bar, the edge of your fabric. And here you insert the hook under. Here you have braids and 2 bars. Insert the hook under the far bar. Yes, under the far one. Now this one, that is also under just 1. Grab the working yarn, pull the entire braid through these 2 bars and through the one that was on the hook with the joining stitch. Insert under the next bar and here as well under the next far bar of these braids. Grab the working yarn, pull up a loop and immediately pull it through the loop on the hook. With these slip stitches, we are joining our fabric together. Next bar, and here the next bar of the braid. Grab the working yarn, pull it through and finish the stitch. Let's see what we have so far. Yes, everything is fine. Next, the following bar here and the next bar here as well. Just like that. Bridge, bridge. This is exactly how we gradually and steadily move towards this particular point. First, that is, we are joining our fabric. Continue on your own, then we'll meet up and continue together. We've almost reached the end. Look, if you make a slip knot the way I do, you can untie this knot. If not, then don't untie it. And I have 2 bridges left and here 2 braids. I grab the second to last one. And the last one for me. Here's the last one coming out. This is the kind of fabric we have. Now we need to sew here and here. What do? We pull out along the tail, a little more than a meter, so it's convenient for you to work with. We remove the excess and we're left with this working tail. To prevent your polyfin cord from unraveling and to make it easier to sew the fabric, it's better to sew up this end with a needle and thread, like this. You just pierce the edge, the cut, and sew it together, connecting it very chaotically. There are absolutely no rules here. It's just so it doesn't unravel. You simply secure the threads together. That's it. Once it's secured, you don't need any knots. And cut it off. Next, you will definitely need a plastic needle into which you carefully thread your yarn tail. And now we start sewing. What do? We need to carefully guide this particular thread all the way around the entire perimeter, specifically behind the outermost bars on this side, ensuring it is properly positioned. These are our outermost bars right here. You see the horizontal and clearly defined bars. That's how we stitch it through. Here at the edge, I'll catch this one as well, and then I'll continue along these. Like this. So you thread it through, and then from the other side, you insert it into the next one. Leave the tail for now. Next, you thread the following one from this side. And the next one from this side. I think everything here is logically clear and very visual. This is how you stitch. This whole entire thing completely to the absolute very end. We stitch on our very own. And then we will gather all of the knitting together carefully. So we've almost reached the end of the knitting. And now we have the entire edge stitched and we're pulling it tight. Pull it tight. Spreading it out. Shaping it like this. Pull it really quite tight. And when you have just a small, tiny hole left, and it's becoming quite hard to pull any tighter, you can then go around the entire edge again, just like this, very carefully. Stitch it. Add a few more stitches and then carefully tighten it. For example, you can randomly insert the needle, just randomly, and then gently tighten it like this. And from here you can First, you should carefully do it in this particular way and then meticulously stitch it up to completely close the entire hole. Here you can clearly see that it has unraveled once again, so we need to gently pull it very tight like this and then carefully bring it over to the look we want, the visual we need. Just like that. Like this. So you have this kind of picture, but of course it needs to be secured. Next, I stitch straight through the sides that are opposite each other. So from this side I pierce through and then to the opposite side. You will need to make a few small stitches at the various intersections. You can do it in one spot like this a couple of times and in the other direction. I stitched it here. And now we are looking here and also right here. Yes, I'll sew it opposite. Yes. Here. Join together. You can bring this thread out here. And together with this little tail, we'll sew it in. But at first, I wouldn't sew it in. I would shape the pumpkin completely first and then sew it together. So here it is. This is what we have, yes. Here is our little pumpkin. And now we need to move to this side. So just cut here. And then we'll very carefully sew in the tip, making sure it is secure. Next, our compartment, which we have prepared, is now completely ready to be filled up with whatever is needed. Girls, here it is. I ordered hollow fiber. Now I'll open it and show you. There are 200 grams here. This diameter is 32 centimeters. The height here is 15 centimeters. This is just for reference, so you know how many grams and what volume we have. So here, you'll need about 20, 30, or 40 grams, depending on how much you want to fill it. It also depends on how densely you fill it. This is just for your reference. Let's fill our pumpkin. This is what our hollow fiber looks like. At the beginning of the video, I showed you the synthetic padding. Hollow fiber, as you can see, is a bit more lumpy. I received a lot of hollow fiber. I'm using it now. It's important for us that all of this fits inside. It should be nicely tightened. And we should be able to adjust it as we go. I think that's enough. So I've filled it quite densely. I'm going back to your standard. With a needle like this. And here I immediately start stitching. I take one of the horizontal bridges. Be careful because you can pierce the cord. If you pierce it, you won't be able to tighten it. See, I pierced it. So be careful. Leave a little tail here so you can pull on it. And then in the same way we keep sewing, we connect them. The same bridges that connect us. We need to ensure that it goes all the way around the entire perimeter, completely encircling it, just like this example demonstrates perfectly. We've connected them. So when you finish sewing, this edge of your pumpkin, you also pull it in like this. Just exactly like this, in this particular manner. And then we will continue to keep going forward, threading carefully under the numerous bridges and then meticulously tightening the entire thing securely. Like this. We tighten it up. Here you can thread under whichever bridges are convenient for you, of course, because physically it gets a bit harder here. If you have a 3mm cord, it's even easier to work with. But the 5mm one is also great to work with. It has its own charm. This is how we connect them. Next, you can carefully stuff it, ensuring it's well filled, and then sew it up securely. Bridges are essential to close the gaps and holes so that the structure doesn't unravel, meaning it absolutely needs to be securely fixed in place. You can even take these bridges a little bit deeper to make them look much nicer and more aesthetically pleasing, like right here, for example. Yes, it actually turned out to be quite interesting and rather unique. Let me now try this particular one. Okay. Okay. Like this. There we go. Let's see what we've got. So you've joined them together, right? Now our little pumpkin. You can flatten it if you want. To flatten it, you need to do this. You pierce your piece closer to the center. so it's easier to pierce through, and you need to bring the needle out on this side. This can be difficult and might not even work if you have a very short needle, but here I managed to do it. So you need to flatten it like this to get the needle through. You don't need to do this. Just a few of these manipulations, not too many. And on this side, we will proceed to do precisely the same thing. And we then apply a bit of careful effort to gently bring it completely out on this side. Come. Physically, you see, I pierced the hollow fiber. That's good. You see, I have carefully flattened it a little bit, you know. Of course, you need to look and choose where you like the visual, where you could make the face of your pumpkin. Here, I have one. I'll stop here, meaning I won't go any further. I've done it like this for myself. I don't want to go any tighter, so I'll secure the thread. I'll stitch this whole thing a little bit more somewhere in this particular area. I'll close up the holes if I have any gaps here. Oh, see, I broke the needle. A lot of physical strength is needed here. Is being used. So now I will proceed to do it here as well, in this particular spot. And that is essentially all there is to it. And you can sew in the ends. I'll show you how I sew in one end, and you do the same with the others. Actually, you can just hide the ends inside the fabric and that's it. After burning them a bit first. Let me show you these two options, because both of them work. For example, I cut it off and burned it so it doesn't unravel. Then with a crochet hook, I just pull it through into the middle of your pumpkin, and that's it. If you want to finish it more neatly, you leave a short end and tuck it in a little. Tuck it in like this. Wherever you hide it, either this particular part will be at the very bottom or the stem will completely cover it. And you just need to sew it in with a needle and thread. You know where it is visually. Here it is for me. And we need to carefully pierce the intricate knitting deeply and precisely like this in order to securely sew the very end of the yarn and the delicate knitting fabric together. I personally never make any visible knots, but to consistently keep the stitches completely invisible and perfectly seamless, I always meticulously insert the needle back into the exact same spot where it originally came out. That way your stitches aren't visible, but you're still sewing it in. I haven't cut the end yet because I secure it first. Now I've secured it. Now I cut it off. Right at the base, and it's absolutely necessary. Preferably, you must stitch over the cut area. I'm stitching it, meaning I bring the needle out somewhere here at the spot where we made the cut. This manipulation isn't easy, especially when it comes to tucking in the ends. And now I insert the needle right into this cut and finish the stitching. When I make bags, I'm much more meticulous and careful about this, but here it will be completely covered by the stem anyway, so I allow myself to do it this way. I just do it as it works out, especially since this spot is tricky, and that's it. We trim the thread close to the base, and that's all. I've hidden and secured all the ends. Now choose the spot where your stem will go. For me, this more flattened part will stay at the bottom. And here it turned out really nicely. Look, this is where my stem will be. I decided to make the stem out of gray yarn. the same color as the cap for two reasons. First, if I choose green, my green is very dark and the stitches won't be visible. Second, it actually looks stylish and beautiful in its own way, so that's what we'll do. So let's move on to crocheting the stem and attaching it. So to crochet the stem, we need a cord that's 3 to 3.5 millimeters thick. Mine is 3.5 millimeters polyester, but it can also be polypropylene. And I'm using a 3.5 millimeter crochet hook for this. We carefully melt the very end of the cord completely so that it absolutely doesn't unravel at all. And then we crochet as follows. Of course, the size of the stem will depend a lot on what you have here. I'll be using the sizes we have with this pumpkin as a reference to show you. You can do fewer or more stitches in the same way, just following the same steps. We make a slip knot, which I've already taught you how to do. The short end over the long end. From underneath, we insert the hook, grab the working yarn, pull it through, and make a knot. Next, we start casting on. 1, 2, 3. For number 5 chain stitches. This is how I check the diameter of the stem, meaning we will twist this piece into the stem and then continue crocheting downwards. So if you have a bigger pumpkin, you should make more stitches and continue in the same way. 5 is enough for us in this case. We close our crochet work. Here is our chain of 5 stitches. These chains should be facing inward, directly opposite each other. Next, we find the first top bar of the first chain. Insert the hook there. Let me show you like this. I grab the working yarn and crochet the 2 loops on the hook together with a slip stitch. And now we've joined into a circle. Next, we continue crocheting as follows. Each following top bar that we see, we need to crochet with a slip stitch. So we find, here it is. Next, after we've crocheted, we grab the working yarn and immediately crochet the loop on the hook. We move around the circle, not skipping any bar. Be careful not to tighten your stitches here. There's no need to crochet tightly. We carefully find each subsequent one, and in this precise manner, the overall length of your individual stems will be accurately formed. It's så kingdom. We continue around the circle. Just like this. That is each next bar. This way you can already see the diameter of your stem and try it on your pumpkin. Of course, the stem here will widen, and this widening will cover this part. You can adjust the length of the stem yourself. So if you want, you can make it very long, well, reasonably long. And then you can start working on the increases. I'm already moving a bit faster now. Mine will definitely be about 3 centimeters long because this pumpkin of mine turned out bigger. I put more stuffing into it. And here's what we have. Yes. Well, this is enough for me. So here I have 3, even 3.5 centimeters. Just visually. You can measure it. I do it by eye because that's just how it is. Next, what do? We stop at any level. Wherever you stop, that's where you stop. Here's your loop. Next to it, there's this little bridge. You insert the hook under this bridge and pull the loop through. Then you tie it. Here's your working loop. You tie this loop like this. And your cord, you carefully pull the cord back. And then we move in a circular motion, but now along the entire outer part of the designated area. Yes, our magnificent bridges, here they are, still standing strong and resilient, and now, with great care and precision, we are going to securely tie them together. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We start with this one, which is kind of behind the loop we just formed. We insert the hook, grab the working yarn, pull out a nice loop and attach a single crochet. And under this same bridge, we insert the hook, pull out the working yarn, and attach 2 loops on the hook. The next bridge, here it is. I'll show the bridges once again. 1, 2, 3, 4. We've attached 1, 4 more remain. Yes. We insert the hook under the next bridge, grab the working yarn, and pull out a nice loop. I pull out a long one like this. We attach 2 loops on the hook. Here we attach the same thing again, the same single crochet. Next, the following bridge. We insert the hook, grab the working yarn, pull out a loop, and attach 2 loops on the hook. And in the next one, the same way. In other words, in each bridge, we crochet 2 single crochets. We have 2 more bridges left. Inserted, 3. Captured, let out, tied up. Brought in here, captured, let out, tied up. And the last one. Brought in, captured, let out, tied up. Brought in, captured, let out, tied up. Just like that. What do we have? Let's try it on. What do we have? We have it perfectly. Basically, there's nothing more to knit here. There's nothing else needed. This part that needs to be covered is completely closed for me. If, for example, you need to knit a bit more to make the diameter larger, you can do it as follows. There's nothing that needs to be joined here. You simply insert the hook under the first horizontal chain. You see there are horizontal chains here. You insert it under the first one, grab the working yarn, and make a slip stitch. And you can also make a chain stitch like this. Next bridge. Insert, grab, make a slip stitch, and a chain stitch. You'll get a gentle little wave like this. Move on. Next one. Insert, pull through stitch, and a chain stitch. This is what you'll get. The stem will gradually widen and expand, and you can then comfortably and easily sew it on, making sure it is a bit larger and more secure. I truly don't need that particular thing because it simply won't fit for me in that specific way. So I will stop right at the exact place where I was previously. And I pull out the working yarn. Actually, the way I'm about to show you how to finish this piece is exactly the same as if you had worked the extra row I just demonstrated. We cut the working yarn. Don't cut it too short, because we still need to make the final part here. 10 centimeters will be enough. We need to... Here is where we finished, and here is our first chain. Horizontally, we insert the hook under it from back to front, and we grab our yarn tail. We've grabbed the tail. And next, we need to return it right here, where it comes out from. From bottom to top, we insert the hook into the chain where it comes out. We grab this tail and pull it back through. That's it. What do we do with the ends? It's simple. We hide them inside, or glue them, or sew them in.
I won't sew it, I'll just hide it. Like this, or I might even glue it. See, I inserted the hook inside, grabbed it, and pulled it out right here. I fixed everything here. This end, the one we finished with, I'll tuck it in a bit deeper. Now we'll glue them, burn the ends, and glue them so they won't be visible. There's no point in wasting time sewing here. And we cut them off. Like this, you should carefully leave about a single centimeter of material there. And then, with precision, you will burn both of the ends, ensuring a clean and secure finish. I have melted them very nicely like this, and then carefully burned them right in the exact center. That's it. Our perfectly prepared stem is now completely ready. Let me show you how to sew it on. To carefully sew on the stem, I meticulously take a gray thread that perfectly matches the exact color of our delicate stem. And sewing on the stem isn't very easy, I'll tell you right away. So I suggest stitching along these parts. Not too deep, because it's hard to get in there. You'll break your fingers. I will now secure the working thread, which is the one I'll actually be using for sewing, somewhere at the very bottom of the piece. I then carefully decide precisely where I want to place it, just like this, and meticulously plan how the subsequent stitching will proceed. Finally, I carefully pierce through the vibrant orange part of the material. So I've pierced it, and now I need to bring the needle back here so that the stitches aren't visible. And here I pierce through the stem. There we go, the connection is made. Next, in the stem, I insert the needle exactly where I just brought it out and pierce through the orange part. Next, in the orange part, I insert the hook into the same hole. But once you're inside the fabric, of course, move around randomly so that the fibers intertwine. Yes, the thread and the fibers, so that it gets fixed in place, and then you stitch it. So, in this way, you go around and secure your stem to the pumpkin. I'll just sew it to these raised parts and that's it. I won't set it in too deep there because it's just too hard for me to get in there. Just like that. I'm moving in a circle, stitching as I go. The main rule is to insert the needle into the same hole it came out of. And we keep going. Basically, there's nothing complicated here. Let's try it on your own. And then we'll move on to a very creative part, working with felt. I really want to make a grey face, not an orange one. Now we're going to experiment. We have sewn on the stem. I didn't make any knots here, I just cut the thread at some point and that's it. And now we move on to the most interesting part, our pumpkin's face. First choose the spot, the side you like the most. I can already see it, for me it's right here. And you should of course carefully visualize proportionally what kind of expressive eyes and delightful mouth you'll ultimately make. And if you're using a pre-made stencil, then you should adjust the face in Word to roughly the right size, print it out and cut it out. And if it's too big, just trace that face onto an A4 sheet, then reduce it along the outline and cut out the size you need. Or, on the contrary, enlarge it, so you get the idea. This is just a little tip for you. Or if you get the size right, simply trace it directly onto the felt and do everything at once. I like to draw, and I want to make a completely different face, not the one we had before. So I take an A4 sheet and I take grey felt. I really want to try making a grey face. First I'll make the grey one, pin it with some pins to see how it turns out. If it looks okay, I'll sew it on. If not, I'll redo it in black. So it's really a flight of fancy here. I'll do a bit of drawing on camera. I take a pen, or you can use a pencil. I'd like to make the eyes in this kind of style, like these. Like this, maybe I'll adjust it a bit. I will now carefully draw the second eye. I meticulously need to draw it, but I will then precisely cut it out and subsequently redraw it to make it as absolutely precise and accurate as humanly possible. Next, I'm going to make the nose. I think the nose will look something like this, kind of round. Right now, I want rounded shapes, and I really want to make a rounded mouth, something like this. Like this. Here. I will make the tip too sharp because it would be harder to work with felt that way. For example, like this. No, this one looks a bit off, so you could do it like this. Or maybe I'll think of something else and draw it again. So, as you can see, I experimented a bit on camera. I didn't quite get what I wanted. Now I'll draw what I want, cut it out, and then we'll see. So I ended up with something like this. I'll try to cut it out and attach it. We'll see how it turns out, if it looks good. If not, I'll keep trying. So I'm cutting it out. And we'll just keep working on this task. So girls, we cut out our little faces and pinned them on with safety pins, just to see how it turns out. Mine turned out to be a really cute story. I'm going to leave it just like that. I really like it. That's how it looks on the pin. So you pin it, take a look, and if everything's fine for you, transfer it onto felt. I'll take them off one by one, trace them and put them back on. So I don't lose the visual I've already got because I really like it. And I can even do this. Put it back into the same hole, the same spot where it was before. So we trace our elements. Notice that I place it with the side where I have the outline facing down. That's exactly how I put it on the felt. Felt is extremely convenient to work with. It's easy to draw on, easy to cut, and it doesn't leave any lint behind. So you just transfer and trace it. I always do this with a pen, like this, and then cut it out. Along the edge. And of course, we'll be sewing on the side without the handle, that is on the other side, yes. As conveniently as possible. In this particular regard, and overall, the material presented is really quite great. Here's what we have. The first fragment, I had it here. I will take another sharp needle and carefully pierce it through. Here, where I drew, I pierced through from this side in the center. Carefully, of course, because little holes remain here naturally. And we need it like this. The spot where the puncture was. That's it. The first fragment is ready. We do the same with each one by analogy. And when we attach the felt, we'll take another look and I'll show you how we sew it on. So here's what I ended up with. I've pinned it. All the pieces, and now we'll slowly start sewing them on. You can glue the whole thing instead of sewing because sewing is a bit difficult. Carefully, that is, you can just use super glue or moment glue to stick it at the main points, and that's basically it. Now, about sewing on our little face. I work with a single thread, and I recommend you do the same. I take a gray color, the same as my felt. The shade doesn't match perfectly, but it's as close as possible. So let me tell you, black felt is the best in terms of making the stitches invisible. With other colors, the stitches need to be very neat. I tried gluing the felt, but if it gets too soaked, you can see the marks. That doesn't look very nice either. You can experiment or try gluing, but maybe a glue gun would work better for this if you have one. I just don't have one myself. That's why I'll be sewing it on like this in 3 places. I've already sewn on one eye to show you. I'll demonstrate this to you on the second one. And in the same way, we'll sew on the muzzle. I'll sew the muzzle here, 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 and here. And that will be enough. The nose can be sewn only on the sides, that is in these spots. So what do? We insert, so I have this particular edge of the eye. It carefully goes right here. We then insert the needle directly into the knitting cord, a crucial step, and potentially pierce the very edge of our delicate eye, about 3 millimeters deep. Right now it's a bit crumpled, but I'll show you. And we sew it like this, just like this. Leave the thread, you'll trim it at the base later. Now make sure nothing has shifted out of place. My eye should be carefully positioned like this. Next, I meticulously sew through the cord and the soft felt material. I consistently make 3 to 4 stitches in each one, ensuring a secure attachment. Each area that I sew down, so this little tail, make sure it doesn't get caught anywhere. We'll trim it off later. The stitches should be right next to each other, parallel, so that it looks neat. So it's not really difficult here. You just need to be a bit patient and tidy, you know, that's the main thing here. I've carefully tightened it. That's 2 stitches completely done, and I'll proceed to do 2 more. I don't make any knots here at all, so here I stitched it, right? And I pull the tail off to the side somewhere, stitching the cord additionally so that it's fixed more securely. I cut it right at the base, right here, so it really doesn't stick out too much, and here as well in this particular spot. Here's what we have. This is how we stitch at all the important points. You can choose the points yourself, you can secure more points if you want. So I did it here, I'll do the same here, here and here as well. It seems to me it's better on the sides or top and bottom, because on the sides here, you see I don't have the kind of bumps that are needed. Here, of course, I'll definitely do these areas and these ones. So we sew on our little face and then we'll move on to working on the hat. Alright girls, I've finished the sewing. You see, I only have it in a few spots. The stitches look neat. It feels like it needs a bit more here, but I'm not sure yet. For now, I'll leave it like this. So we're finishing up with the felt, with the little pumpkin. This is how wonderful it turned out from all sides. We're going to move on to the hat.